Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
the Time Travel Trio!
We did that in a triangular formation.
Did we?
Well, there's three of us, so we, by our powers combined,
We made
are
a triangle.
a triangle.
Oh!
The Time Travel Triangle.
Yeah.
And not an isosceles.
Okay.
Not joke.
Cool.
Someone
Good
appreciate
one.
it. No one appreciate it.
No.
No, that was lame.
Matt, what did you pick today?
Today we are covering 2009's movie Triangle, which apparently to IMDb it's first a fantasy. No, it's a scary movie. It's like thriller, mystery. Yeah.
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 It's kind of a horror movie, but it's not that bad. It's more interesting. So, like,
Right.
I'm not someone who's a big fan of horror movies. I don't like gore and jump scares just for the sake of scaring the audience. I
Right.
think it's kind of annoying. But this movie actually does have a plot, and it is more interesting. So
Yeah, it
there
wasn't a
are-
slasher.
Yeah, it's not a slasher.
Yeah, I mean, people die, and there's a lot of blood, but it's not that bad. It's more about the... Usually, it's more about the
mystery,
story
yeah.
and the mystery of what's going on. So, if you're, like, turned off from horror movies, don't let that defer you if this sounds interesting, but just heads up, we will be spoiling. It already is kind of a spoiler, the fact that we're covering this movie, because it's not, like, known as a time travel movie if you haven't seen it before, but it did come across us, so why did you pick it?
Yeah, so I first heard about this movie when I think it was after I watched Time Crimes for the first time, and I was at like a happy hour with friends, and I was like, oh, I watched a movie called Time Crimes. It was a cool like time travel movie, and someone was like, oh, have you seen Triangle? And I was like, no, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's a cool like thing, like no spoilers, you should check it out. And I wrote it down on my list of movies to see eventually, and I didn't ever really. I never got around to it until we were doing a time travel podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this movie that I heard about. It was like, you know, known for like, I knew it was like a sci-fi movie, and then like as I think we were checking some list of movies that are time travel stuff, and this showed up on it, and I was like, oh yeah, I heard of that movie. So yeah, I made sure that we did it, and we finally got around to it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good one. The story is, okay, I say that, but it also starts, the
Same.
story revolves, so sorry. The plot summary says,
There you go.
the story revolves around the passengers of a yachting trip in the Atlantic Ocean who, when struck by mysterious weather conditions, jump to another ship only to experience greater havoc on the open seas. So it's written and directed by Christopher Smith, stars Melissa George, and the superbly excellent Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Gale.
Gale!
What's funny is this is 2009, and he's like shaved head, so he has like short hair. So you don't know if it's like a young Chris Hemsworth or if it's Liam Hemsworth, because like it could be both, literally. Because if you think of like Liam, if you think of Chris from Cabin in the Woods, and this Liam,
I didn't even think
it's
about
like
that.
they look the exact same.
They
Yeah.
do look very... That's what I was talking before we started recording this. I kind of got thrown off because I was like, is this like Chris Hemsworth before he made it big, or is this Liam Hemsworth
Yeah,
before he made
like
it big?
is this Chris Hemsworth off the set of Cabin in the Woods, or is this?
Yeah, it is kind of
Liam.
Cabin in the Woodsy
Yeah.
a little bit. Man, I wish that movie had time travel.
I know.
love that movie. Maybe we can just do like a few one-off episodes that aren't time travel related, but we wish they were.
It's this movie's like, hey, you know what movie? Like, here's a movie that would have been improved with time travel.
That would be kind of fun.
Hey, you know, we
Maybe
Like
we'll
the-
do mini episodes
Yeah,
like that.
the premise could be like us if we were a podcast that we created in a timeline where we didn't do time travel movies. It could be like a
But movies that are
yeah.
that would have been better with time travel.
and then
Yeah.
you and I, Matt, both have like goatees.
Right, yeah,
in
of
this,
course.
in this
right.
alternate timeline.
Right.
Mm.
And Jen has like a blue streak in her hair.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
Ooh.
Blue streak in the hair, and it always like is like the one uncurled like
Mhm.
strap of hair.
It's a community reference. When they have the darkest timeline, they have goatees, and Brenda has like a blue streak of hair. He's like, I lost an arm. Yeah, I have a blue streak of hair. That's it. Anyways,
Anyway,
triangle.
So, did Community ever do time travel? Not really.
I mean, the episode with the dice rolling shows different timelines
Yeah.
happening, but like, I guess
maybe we could get away with it.
like in Abed's imagination, they're canon different timelines, but not really. So
Yeah. Okay, well, Triangle, initial thoughts.
I mean, it's our first time all of us seeing it for the
None of
first
us
time.
had seen it before, so which is always kind of fun, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, I liked it like
Yeah.
more than I thought I would. I was surprised at like kind of like I have some issues with stuff, and we'll get into it. But for the most part, it was pretty solid from what we saw. It's like a mystical stuff going on, so it can't be like totally sci-fi rules. But for what they did and kind of how it all came together, I liked it a lot. I think it was pretty well made.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, this was my first time ever seeing it, and honestly, it was like, well, I won't say too much about how I feel about the movie, but it was a pleasant surprise for a B movie. Like, I was expecting like Sci-Fi Channel original movie quality,
Right.
and it definitely does a lot better than this. I actually rented it off of Amazon Prime, and I kind of wish I just ponied up the extra $2 and bought it, because it is a movie like, I was like, maybe one day I'll come back and watch this again.
Yeah, I would be interested. So before I speak on that, but I liked it too. I was also, you took the words out of my mouth, I was also pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it too. I was really engrossed in the story and was like there figuring it out, whatever, and didn't mind that everyone died but her, because everyone else was pretty annoying, and so that worked.
Heather!
But I almost, like, oh, poor Heather. Literally one of my notes is just poor Heather.
Poor Heather, like, she just gets such a raw deal.
You know what I said, though? I was like, at that point, like, just make her the black guy. You know what I mean?
She
like,
is.
Come on.
She is. This is like, dang.
Who are you fooling? No, but what I was going to say to you is I almost want to rewatch it again a little bit to rewatch her on the boat.
Yeah.
Those scenes. Because I would be interested now knowing that she kind of maybe doesn't remember everything, to kind of see, how did she play that?
Quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How, she knew these things were coming or whatever. So, yeah. But I liked it.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie, it's probably going to be fairly confusing with us trying to, because we're not really going to go through we'll explain a lot of it, but if you haven't seen it and would like to see it, we do recommend.
Yeah, there's a pretty intertwined time loop that involves multiple copies of Jess at the same time. That might be confusing, so if you haven't seen it, if you want to, go for it. I mean, like I said, it's not that scary if you don't like scary movies. It's definitely more of a mystery with some killing in it. But so we're going to spoil everything.
Yeah, this movie reminded me of Time Crimes for sure, obviously. A little bit of Ark, I thought.
A little bit of Ark, a little bit of ghost shit.
A little bit of Moon, almost.
Yeah, some Moon elements.
With dead clones.
There's
spoilers.
definitely some things, I mean, spoilers, but if you haven't seen Moon at this point, like, there's like a certain time frame where spoilers are.
See Moon if you haven't seen it. Stop listening to this podcast right now and see Moon.
And also, even if I did just spoil it for you, I'm sorry, but it's still a good movie. If you still want to see it,
it is a
good
movie.
Anyways.
Anyway,
the trailer for Moon gives it away anyway.
Yeah, that's true. No, I enjoyed this movie a lot. Let's play the trailer and then we can kind of get into it more.
You know what I do when I have a bad dream? I close my eyes and I think of something nice.
So let's go sailing.
Wind's dropped out on us.
Get below deck now. Get the life jacket. Oh, thank God.
Hello? Where's everybody?
You enter a place you have never been.
I recognize this corridor.
Everything you see, you have seen before.
It's starting over again. That's what's going on. Everything that happened to you before. He's dead! We changed the pattern. We changed the pattern and we're not trapped. Who are you?
I'm kind of surprised that shot at the end of the trailer was in the trailer, because when we saw the movie, Jen, I think that surprised us.
It did.
A lot.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, sorry, we're referring to the scene when Sally goes to the deck that has all of her dead bodies on it. It's like, oh,
there's
okay.
like dozens of dead Sallys.
Dozens.
Yeah.
And it's frightening.
Because it's the first time we see like things piling up.
Yeah, it's a cool twist for sure. not like it's not even like a twist.
It's a revelation.
It's just,
It's like a plot point. It's like a reveal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like this is how many times this happened. What I really liked about this movie was how, first of all, I do feel that they did pay a little bit of homage to Time Crimes by having her in the mask and that whole thing.
Yeah, there
I
was
did
like
feel like that
felt
was
like a
pretty
very-
purposeful.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, this is
Which
Time
I liked.
Crimes.
yeah,
yeah.
her future self having a bag or having her face covered, you know.
Yeah, it was very kind of similar to Time Crimes in that way. But what I really liked about this movie was that the decisions, like you'd think she was making new decisions, you know, like trying to
Right.
change it and fix it. And then
Right.
it turns out, because it's her every single time, she always makes those same different decisions.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it never actually changes anything,
Because
which I
you
thought
can
was really
outsmart
cool.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like her motivations made sense. It was like because before she becomes, you know, put the bag on her face, we see her trying to do things differently, and it didn't work out, and so she had to put the bag on her face. But at that point, she's kind of gone a little bit more crazy. But like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It isn't like, why is this happening? It's like, oh, I see. Now she's convinced that she has to get off the boat. Only way she knows how is because she saw that once they all die, they come back again.
Yeah, I liked this movie. She is kind of schizophrenic, and so that makes it a little bit more interesting too, because we don't necessarily trust what we're seeing or trust her.
Right, unreliable narrator.
Yeah, but it is, you know, at first I thought, oh, is this movie man versus nature? You know, like maybe the storm or the water or the boat itself or whatever it is causing it, but it's really, I mean, yes, it's supernatural forces keeping them in a time loop, but it's her who's doing the killing.
Yeah.
It's man versus themselves, which is
Right,
interesting.
and her inner self, because a lot of this stemmed, like one of the big revelations in the movie is that she realizes, oh, I'm not as good of a mother as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end when she hears
Well, she
her-
sees it from the outside.
Well, she sees it, but she sees herself, you know, slapping her son and yelling at him and not being a good parent and
Right.
being abusive and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Because now, like, her son's autistic, right? Like,
yeah,
he's
autistic. Yeah.
Tommy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like she's just like really frustrated and like really not the
Yeah.
most caring mother necessarily. Not necessarily a bad person. Just
No, it's. I mean, like her thing is like she's a single mom with an autistic kid who never has time to herself, and so it's kind of like she's at her rope's end the entire time that she's like living her life, and so like she snaps, you know, and unfortunately hits her son, and you know, then when she sees it, she snaps obviously again, and then kills herself.
I
Right.
wonder if
right.
so at the very
extreme response.
Yeah.
so at the very end, and Matt had to. We kind of discussed briefly because we don't like to talk too much if we watch a movie together. But I just didn't really understand fully. But it's Death is the cabbie who comes
Yeah,
and
he's a
takes
taxi
her
driver.
and continues to live.
It's-
But what I was going to say is that maybe she's being punished for how she treated
Yeah.
her kid.
She very
And-
well
and-
could be.
You know, yes, maybe it is her choice to continue the loop, but it's also her punishment, I think.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of stuck in this forever. She has to see her son die over and over again. She has to, you know,
Right.
she has to keep killing these people and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And the whole mythology theme of the movie, it draws comparisons to the story of Sisyphus, who's the son of Aeolus, the god of wind.
Mhm.
And Sisyphus breaks a promise with death, I think, and then is condemned to push a boulder up a mountain to have it go back down again, just to pick it up again. So it's
That's
like
right, yeah.
that's his torment, is to do it like for eternity, to push this boulder up a mountain, which is her journey basically. Now she's stuck in this loop with Death, who the taxi
Yeah.
driver. He's like, "Will I see you again?" She's like, "Yeah, you will." And then she gets off and goes to the yacht. So that's kind of the allegory that they're using in this movie.
Yeah, and it's cool because I also liked, so the first time when we kind of realized that she was repeating, when she finds the record, and it's kind of like skipping, and then
Yeah.
there's a few shots in there that kind of like, they also like skip back and repeat
Yeah.
a few times, which I thought was really cool. I'm glad that they didn't do that a lot throughout the
There's a
movie.
few,
Right.
yeah.
It was just right
And that
there,
reveal.
and that was kind of like told us what we needed to know, that this has been happening multiple times, and this will continue to be happening.
Well,
Right.
what's also cool, in that same scene, there's a shot where the camera goes through a mirror. I noticed it the first time, but I don't know if
That's cool.
I actually watched it when I was making the clip for the movie. The camera, like when she's looking in the mirror right after that part, when she starts to go out the door, it goes into the mirror and then follows her. which is really cool. I thought.
That's
Yeah.
a cool
There's,
fact.
there's some other cool things too. When they first see the go to the theater, when they enter that I keep calling it hotel room, but the
Ballroom?
the room where they have go to theater on the meter on the
Oh,
on the window in blood.
Yes.
Or, not window, mirror.
Mirror.
When she walks into that room, there's 3 mirrors and there's 3 of her in the reflection. Which the time loop, there's 3 of her going around. Which that was another cool little subtle.
I didn't catch
hint.
that part, actually.
It was before it all happened. That's why I know. I was like, okay, I know there's gonna be duplication. There's 3 of her in the reflection. That was pretty cool.
That's really
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah, there
Good
was
job,
some,
Christopher Smith.
there were some smart shots
Yeah.
I felt in this movie because we follow her, but we don't see everything. And like I remember the first time they go through the ship, I was like, wait, who told them that Sally and Donovan? Who told them to go to the theater?
Right.
You know, and so that was. I was like, is that a plot hole or what? And then they end up answering that later. The third duplicate of her
Yeah.
told them to go to the theater and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But
After she kind of realized what she has to do, she's like, go to the theater.
yeah. What would happen if she killed the duplicates of herself and didn't kill the other people on the ship?
I don't know.
I think that's kind of like, not that like it's a dumb question, but I think it's like a flawed premise because in order for everything to work in the time loop, she can't. It's like, I don't think she will, so she doesn't. Like, I don't know. I don't think she would ever make that choice, so it's not a
Right,
chance
because
that'll happen.
she can't outsmart herself, and at the end we kind of find out that she's kind of almost in a weird way like choosing to continue doing this loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of her. So we'll explain kind of the different versions of her, but one of her does kill her future self.
Right.
We see it from a distance. There's 2 versions of her that run around the ship that are like not the first time they've been there. One of them has like blood on her face after being grazed by a bullet in the head.
We call that one the evil version.
Yeah, the bad bag face Jess. So at the end she gets killed by another good. Well, I guess
No, she gets killed by the evil Jess.
in the past.
No. So there's like evil Jess 1 and evil Jess 2. Evil
Yeah.
Jess 1 is not evil yet,
Right.
but she's the one who kills evil Jess 2, and then
Throws her
she
body over.
becomes
Right,
evil
she-
Jess
she
2,
goes crazy, she
and then
snaps.
evil Jess 1 is formed, and it's like those 2 are kind of in a loop to become
Right.
the next
Yeah.
one each time.
So
Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
so the time loop, the way it works is like when they get to the boat, the time loop has already been happening. But the Jess that we're following, the Jess that like we see from start to finish, she's the good Jess, quote
She's
unquote.
the Jess who gets off of the boat and sees her son again. Not every
Right.
Jess who is duplicated gets off the boat.
Right. But so the first time we see our good Jess knock over the bag face good Jess, she doesn't kill her. She just like knocks her off and she goes in the water. And then as we then later find out, she ends up back on the beach and it's earlier in time.
Yeah, when the one who is knocked out of the water and is not dead is the one who comes on the beach. She goes back home. She kills the like one in the house.
Yeah.
That. So it's kind of confusing to explain if you haven't seen the movie for sure.
But when you see it, actually, it's not like it makes sense. And the movie
It really does, yeah.
The movie is trying to keep you guessing, but it's not trying to confuse you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you enough information so it's not purposefully trying to confuse you.
Right.
Yeah, it knows that you want to understand. Where a movie like Primer, we're going to go back there, purposefully confuses the audience in order to appear smarter
Yeah.
of a movie than it is.
But
this
yeah, this
movie
movie gives
knows
you
what it
everything.
is. It gives you the information you need, but it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, by the end, I didn't know that she and the kid were going to, die.
No, that was like
No, I didn't know that about the bird. There's all this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of duplication, which I always love.
It's the journey of Jess that we follow, the good Jess, we'll call her. She discovers what has to happen over the course of like 2 different crews of her friends,
Maybe even 3.
maybe 3. Yeah, because the third crew that she experiences where she's like actually killing
Yeah,
them.
because the third one, when she sees the yacht run away, at first she wants to kill them all so that she can then get off and get on the boat when they come on.
right.
Yeah,
But it ends up being the one where she is alive but is pushed overboard and ends up on the beach. But
right,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and then once that version goes overboard, then the the next third Jess and goes on board, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think when she first got on board, I think that was like evil Jess looking at her. I don't know. I had to rewatch it again to figure out where in the loop that all comes in there.
There's probably, I bet you there's probably a chart somewhere that someone's made of this.
Yeah.
But it is easier to follow than Primer, I would definitely say. It's more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it unfolds similarly to Time Crimes, where like you follow the same version of this person that's in this time loop that intersects with themselves. You know, but there are different. Like when the first time she sees herself with the gun in her hand, she like puts a gun to herself. I'm like, oh, she's changing things, and then I realize, oh no, it's just a different. It's like a different time loop in itself. It's like that's how it's going to happen. But this is like, I don't know. It's more than just two versions of herself,
right?
You know,
yeah, and so
because there has to be, in order for it to be a triangle.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. Because at one point she tries to change things different than the first time. I think it was the second time, so it's different than the first time she went through everything. She, interacts with people in different ways and that kind of thing, says different things, goes different places, but that always, it's cool when we realize, and I think I really realized it when we see all the dead Sallys, was when we realized that her trying to change things because it's her versus herself, it didn't actually change anything because she still ends up making the same decisions eventually, you know, so...
Right. Yeah, and we actually have a clip of Jess talking to Victor, who's Liam Hemsworth. This is the first time she realizes she's in a loop, and she's trying to explain to him that, like, no, we've done this before. So this is is the second time this is I guess the start of the next loop.
Yeah.
There are bodies all over the ship. Your body is on the floor of the restaurant with a hole in your head.
Listen, I'm gonna do you a favor, okay? I'm not gonna tell anyone about this.
It's the truth. Victor, we gotta get off this ship right now.
You're saying there's two of you now,
Yes,
and I'm dead in the restaurant.
you were killed.
Okay, so I'm dead. Downey's in the water, he's dead too. Sally, okay. See where I'm going with this, right? I mean, if we're dead and there's two of you, how are we all gonna get off this ship?
You should never have boarded the ship. I knew something was wrong. I should have forced you to stay on the yacht, and then you'd all be alive.
I've got to tell you, I feel pretty alive right now.
Soon you're gonna be dead,
Hey,
Victor.
easy on the grabbing.
Everything that happened to you before.
God, I can't even believe I'm talking this shit.
Victor, it means you're gonna die.
So she pushes him into like a like a hook
thing
hanging out of the wall, and it goes into the back of his skull.
It's not a curved hook. It has a pointed end.
Yeah, it's like a little. It's like the end of a pipe.
She has to push him pretty hard though for his whole head to go through it. Though,
Yeah.
Well, it didn't kill him. He still stumbled around. It just it's like pierced the back.
I know,
of his
which
head.
I'm saying is like it has to be a specific, very specific pressure that she pushed on him to go through his skull enough that his brain is coming out, but not enough to actually.
I don't think his brain. No, it wasn't his brain. It was it was the upper part of his neck that was just bleeding out.
Yeah, he was just. It didn't pierce the skull.
Yeah, because he walked around a lot.
No, because remember in the very first one when he's strangling her, she pushes against it.
I don't think it was blood. I think it was just the wound.
No, I'm not saying it's blood. I'm saying it's brain.
No, sorry. I don't think it was brain. I think it was just the wound.
I don't know.
I think it was.
I will say the first time I did think it was brain, but I don't know. Looking back at it, I don't know if it was brain.
Because it was like upper neck. It wasn't skull.
I don't know.
I think it was skull.
Because I don't know. It might have been at the base of his skull, maybe.
It's probably purposely ambiguous. Like, how much damage did she do?
Yeah.
Because he walked around a lot, and like she talked to him again, and he was still walking around the ship. So.
But I mean, he still dies. He's not like walking around fine. He's like hobbling around, trying to throw himself overboard so he can die in the sea.
Right.
But anyway, so the purpose of that clip is basically she's just kind of trying to explain it, but of course no one's going to believe her.
And yeah, the first time we see it, people are like, "You shot Greg," or like, "You told us to come here." So you're like, she's like, "I didn't do that. It wasn't me." And then like, obviously, we see later that it was different. Her later on. So
yeah,
so you're just a crazy psychotic version of Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, basically.
Rachel McAdams
almost, except she actually gets to quote unquote time travel.
Yeah,
so George gets to time travel.
So how does the time loop work?
Well, here's the thing, like, so the time loop isn't perfect. Jen and I talked about, like, our problems with it.
So
We don't know how it all started.
that's the biggest plot hole, is that the very first time this happened, how did it create the time loop? Because there would only have been one of her
Right.
on the ship at all, so they wouldn't have died. All this stuff would, eventually maybe, but...
See, I do have a theory about this, because I was
Okay.
thinking about this. Okay, so here's what I think happened. She and her friends get onto the ship. But while they're on the ship, after they've been there for a little while, the duplicates of them come onto the ship again.
But that doesn't work with the rules, because the rules say that they have to all die before the loop can restart.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like, that, like, I don't deserve an answer, or I don't demand an answer for that question, because...
Don't deserve one.
Yeah, I don't
I
deserve
don't
it.
deserve it. I haven't done enough to
Yeah.
deserve,
No,
deserve their answer.
I think it was. I like the way that he wrote and directed it, and the fact that they just stumbled upon this time loop happening. It's already supernatural as it is,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if that's the only concession I have to make in order for everything to make sense, I can look past it. It might reflect on my final score, but like it didn't detract from the movie at all. I don't think.
I think it did a little, because I wish there was... I mean, yeah, maybe some of it was because I know we were analyzing it, but even just watching it, I kind of was thinking, like, wait, so what happened the very first time?
Mm-hmm.
Because this isn't the first time. Whereas, like, in Time Crimes, it logically made sense the first time. That was a very closed loop. But for this, it just kind of is a little bit messier.
Yeah,
so
it's
for me,
endless.
it does take away points, but...
I mean, yeah, it takes away points, but I wasn't annoyed by it, I guess.
I mean, it did annoy me, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I do have an issue, not an issue, but the problem with this endless thing is that, like, what happens when there's so many Sallys that, like, they fill up the deck, like, with being infinity and being an endless loop, you're gonna have issues. Obviously, it's supernatural, so, like, I don't know, maybe there's some other supernatural way, but, it's, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
It's
not
ship
perfect.
the ship just sinks from under the weight of dead Sally.
Yeah, that's how it ends.
Honestly, eventually it would, because if it's endless, I mean, where we're coming in, it's only happened dozens of times, which that is a lot, but that's not that much in the scheme of the
Right.
fact that it's going to be happening forever. So,
Yeah.
unless she decides not to go to the harbor or
Right.
something, but,
How would that
there's
work?
no evidence of that anything will actually change. So,
Yeah, and I think another thing too that we haven't actually specifically pointed out is that when she gets back from the ship, she's in the past. Like, she's outside the time
Yeah.
loop in the past,
Right.
and she interacts with herself before she even goes on the ship.
So
Yeah.
here's the question: is that that storm and everything in the ship, does time not exist?
It's definitely not linear, because before she gets knocked off, she uses the radio, and then they hear her like after she returns back to the shore. So there's some weird time distortion going on in general.
well, yeah, when she goes back on the beach and runs back home,
Hours.
yeah, it's still the same morning before she left.
Yeah.
So how does the loop work? Is it like her specific, or like, I
Right.
don't know.
And she's clearly, as we talked about, being punished. But why are the other people there? What's their deal? Why are they all there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Why did Heather have to die before they even got on the thing?
Poor Heather.
Poor Heather.
Yeah. She
Like,
never
what
she
was
never
the
got
point?
to no
What was
time
the
loop for
point of
her.
Yeah.
I guess it's just show like they're in real danger. It's real now.
Well, it was like
Yeah.
it was like a setup as like a horror movie. It's like, oh, these people on a boat. Like,
Mhm.
here's the dynamic. They're a couple. There's two girls and there's two guys that are single. Like, they kind of have a thing, and there's other girl trying to get this other guy, but then like obviously she gets killed, and then that whole thing just goes away. So
Yeah, so I don't know. Part of me too was thinking maybe her kid doesn't actually have autism, and that maybe because she's schizophrenic and she's kind of psychotic, maybe that's...
Yeah, maybe she's projecting stuff.
Yeah, and maybe he's not actually special needs. I don't know. It's just a thought,
A lot of
but
questions.
there are a lot of questions.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No. So the rules, we kind of touched on the rules, but everyone has to die, obviously except her.
yeah, all the non-Jess crew.
Has to die in order for the loop to continue. And because things happen the same way each time, and there's never, which is why I kind of asked the question, like, what would have happened if none of them ever died? they would just stay on that ship probably forever, I'm guessing.
Until they're all old, and then they die of old age, and then it's old Jess versus young Jess.
Yeah. That could be like that is a Doctor Who episode. So, those are the majority of the rules. Jess kind of makes her own rules, I guess you could say. The basic thing is that if you want the loop to repeat, they have to die. Whereas, why can't she just leave?
Yeah.
Why? I'm asking though, why can't she leave?
I think every time she tries to leave, something happens. I think that's. I don't think it's not. I mean, where's she gonna go? Really, there's no boat. The yacht's overturned.
Yeah, I guess that's true. She does try, and the next loop she wants to get on the
Yeah, I mean
yacht,
that is her trying to leave.
Yeah,
her plan was to kill them, have the boat come back, and then use it to get away. But then we see that when she does that, there's another younger version of herself that fights her and then knocks her overboard.
Right.
So
it's she can never. Because what would you do if you saw your older self coming at you I gotta kill you and all your friends? You'd be like, oh crap, you gotta kill this doppelganger.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is 5 against 1.
Right.
Okay, well.
Who are you gonna trust? The people you just been with for the last thing and just survived a boat wreck, or some crazy version of yourself that could be some sort of trick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have another thing that's kind of my issue with the time loop is her keys.
Yeah, that I had that note too.
Yeah.
How did her keys get there in the first place?
Yeah, they exist in the time loop. I guess she had them with her when she got on the yacht.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was just trying to think the her that ends up going back to the past to get back on the boat again.
Yeah, but that was the same one from the beginning,
Yeah.
But I mean, so it's it's in the loop, but how did they get in the loop in the first place? Which I guess it's all boils down to the same thing about how did it all start, and how does eternity work?
Yeah, and those are the consequences too. I'd say is that she is stuck in this purgatory.
Yeah.
For eternity.
Yeah.
I was also curious. I thought at one point maybe she would pull a looper and just kill herself. That would have been cool.
There was a moment where she put the gun to her head, but then she, it was for a second that she didn't. She was like, no. She had the gun. And
what
was
would have happened in that circumstance? That would have changed the loop.
Yeah. Then she wouldn't have grown to be the good bag-faced Jess.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, that could have closed the loop.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's not what happens.
She never makes that choice, though.
Yeah, she never makes the choice.
Scientific accuracy.
I mean, this is all supernatural paradox stuff. This is definitely there are definite true paradox things. Sometimes I say oh, it's not a paradox because this thing happened because this thing happened. There are true paradoxes. It's like with the keys and all the the beginning and end. That's a paradox. And the fact that it's supernatural, it doesn't bug me as much as it probably would. But
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that the distress call was actually Sally and not Jess.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, that's obviously going to be Jess, and this is going to be some sort of part of the time loop and whatever. But it's actually Sally who calls, which I thought was cool because that really reiterated how time is not moving correctly,
right.
Almost. That there's also versions of them who's still on the boat in the storm, and then there's also the versions who are getting killed, and there's all this stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah.
It was a very whitewashed cast.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no. It is apparently a British film, but still, it's pretty white.
Yeah.
But then again, a black person would be like, nah, screw this, man.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what?
Well, first of all, it's a movie set on a yacht, so no black guy would get on a yacht. Willingly,
true.
So.
No black guy would get on a yacht and be
Which is
like...
why it would have been even funnier if Heather was black.
Yeah.
Because then she's like... Because Heather would not make that decision.
Yeah.
Because if I was on that ship, I'd be like, I would find on my future selves and be like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take the boat. We're going to drive it back to shore. There's 3 of us. I'm sure we can all have 3 very successful lives.
Yeah.
It's and then we'll be good.
We can timeshare the kid. It'll be fine.
It'll be
Yeah.
cool. Now
More
we'll
of us.
actually have free time because you can watch him on Mondays,
Yeah.
Tuesdays. Boom. Problem solved.
Yeah. I liked at the end because it felt like the thing driving her to actually get off the boat was that her son was waiting for her.
Right.
And then it turns out, he is, but he isn't. You know?
Right.
Yeah, I do like the ending because when she got off the boat and went back to her house and killed herself, I was like, wait, why is this, what's like, what are we still seeing? What more could be happening? And then like you realize, oh, okay, I see. Now it all makes sense as to why it started, because like she gets in the accident, the taxi driver is like, you need a ride somewhere, as the screen turns ominously dark, because it's like talking to death, and then she gets in there and like kind of resets, I guess, like, because when we first see in the beginning of the movie, we don't really see her getting there. We just kind of see her friends when she gets there.
Yeah, she's in the car, and then it jumps to the people on the boat, and then she arrives eventually.
Yeah,
Right.
which I thought was pretty interesting, because all we see in the beginning of the movie is she's wearing a dress. It gets stained on it, and then we see her wearing different clothes arriving at the yacht.
Yeah, so we just, logically, you just assume she changed clothes and went to this thing and whatever.
Well, it's like the same thing they did in The Sixth Sense. Spoiler alert, if somehow you do not know the ending for The Sixth Sense, stop listening to this podcast right now, but you probably do. So, spoiler alert, Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis is dead. Great, at the beginning, he gets shot. They literally show him dying. But because they don't ever show him die, and then just say, like, 6 months later or whatever, 1 year later, and then, like, he's, like, chilling, you don't think, oh, he's a ghost. You think he just survived a near-death experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And the same thing kind of happens with this film.
Yeah.
They just skip the death. It's literally take out the death, but it's almost like the same idea that, like, if you died, would you know you were dead? Like, if you died in some afterlife type of form, would you know you were dead?
And it's pretty cool, too, because the beginning when they're in the house, it does kind of jump around a little bit, and it's a little disorienting. You don't totally understand what they're talking about, what she's talking about to her son.
Yeah, the
she's
dream.
Kind of like, but like, we hear, oh, he's autistic, so whatever.
But the doorbell rings, though.
Yeah, the doorbell rings. We don't know what that is. He kind of gets really upset. We don't know why.
Right.
It kind of jumps back and forth a little bit. I do remember wondering, like, how come they didn't show him dropping the cup of paint water?
Yeah.
Because they showed him painting, and then all of a sudden she's cleaning up, and I was like, oh, that's probably something we'll find out later. Which I kind of wish that... I get why we had to see that, but I kind of wish, like, there was a way maybe they just showed him actually knocking it off.
Right. So here's my question. With all this happening, because of, like, it's implied... Because Tommy doesn't get on the boat with her. So it's implied that Tommy gets to have probably a better afterlife than she does. Mm-hmm. So the question: is everyone else in the yacht, are they also dead? Did all those people died, and now they're just on that boat?
No, I think to the outside world, they went on a yacht and just died. So like tomorrow, in terms of the movie, like the next day after this whole loop happens, they're just dead, and the whole world goes on, and she's stuck in this day forever.
Right.
But she dies. Also, in the car.
Right,
so...
yeah, to the outside world, she died too, I guess, then. Because they found her body.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking.
So then did she die to the outside world? To her neighbor, who's mowing the lawn, did she die on the boat, or did she die in the car?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And other people on the yacht, people who died in other ways, who now are on the yacht with her.
No, I think they're outside this whole purgatory thing she's stuck in. I think to the outside world, she died in a car crash. The only person that knows that she went to the yacht is Death, and then her friends. And her friends died on the boating trip. So
her friends probably died when the boat capsized. In reality, that's probably what would have happened.
So, like, does that mean like Heather doesn't have to go to purgatory because she doesn't end up on the ship?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know, but like logically, to me, that would make sense. Like she was taken out of this quote-unquote punishment, so maybe there was a purpose to that. Maybe she was better than the rest of them, or whatever it is. I don't know.
Well, this is a theory. I'm not saying this. Yeah.
Well, maybe Heather didn't even die. Maybe because not Melissa, Jess fell off the boat, then drifted up on shore. Maybe Heather did the same thing. Maybe she just
true.
I don't know.
Got out of the loop.
Yeah.
She was out of the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, she might not have even been involved at all. Maybe she just got sucked out and then washed up on shore, and she's fine.
It's one loop you'll be happy to be left out of.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Just for her character's sake, I hope that's what happened. I hope that she got washed up on shore.
But that doesn't actually answer our question of how did she die? How,
Yeah, did she die in the car? The outside world, did she die in the car, or did she die on the yacht?
I think to the outside world, if like let's say this calendar date's like Friday the 13th or whatever, I don't know. On the 14th,
Really?
I don't know, just
Yeah.
some supernatural
I
day.
feel you.
Cool.
I feel you. I feel you, Foreman. I
If
feel you.
on the 14th, just to pick a day to
There you go.
whatever.
Okay.
I think to the outside world, Jess died in a crash with her son, and these people, Victor, Greg, Sally,
Donovan.
Donnie, whatever, Downey. His name was
Oh,
Downey, right?
Downey?
Yeah, I
I've
think
been
it's-
calling him Donovan.
I don't know,
Downey,
but
sure.
yeah, I think to the outside world,
See how it works.
I think
I
they
know,
went
right?
out.
Like laundry detergent? Okay.
Yeah, I think they went out on the yacht and just didn't come back
Yeah,
Yeah.
because to the outside world they didn't know Jess went on the trip.
that's true.
Because
You wouldn't know.
she was only there because Greg knew her from her job. Like they
Greg,
were
like, basically, Greg would hit on her because she's a waitress, is kind of the thing.
I mean, yeah, he would eat there because she worked there and he was attracted to her. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And he's like, come on this yacht. I mean, perfect
Nothing
swag.
bad'll ever happen.
This is perfect swag move, you know?
He owns a yacht, yeah.
yeah. I own a yacht.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. How did the body in the trunk, like, perfectly roll out of the zipped up body bag
I
and
know.
seem exactly fine and not fine, but like she
Look,
wasn't dead for a couple hours already?
Cinema.
Because here's a thing. This could maybe be a very nitpicky plot hole. Wouldn't the coroner see that her time of death was way earlier than the
Yeah.
son's?
Yeah.
Definitely,
That
they
would be a
definitely would.
problem.
By probably, I mean, maybe like I don't know, by probably no more than an hour, I would say, because she put it in the car and then drove away.
So maybe in the corner probably
I
wouldn't
mean, but
even-
she still cleaned up the house of the blood, I'd say. Wouldn't you? She
Yeah,
still
there's
had to
definitely
take care. The
evidence.
son gets upset. She still takes care of the son. I'd say no. That's at least 2 hours.
So
Right,
There's
yeah, I
been
see
like
what
some
you mean,
detective on Saturday the 14th, like, this is a crazy case. Kid kills his mom, then drives around for dead body for a while until they get hit by a car. Tragic. Tragic.
Yeah.
That must be how it happened. It's like a psych episode. Okay, so is the time travel relevant to the story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the conflict, the central conflict is this time loop.
Yeah. I wish I don't know, I'm glad that the loop just continues in the end and that we know why, but I don't know, part of me would have wanted to see a break in the loop,
Yeah,
I think.
I know. It's kind of like where time crimes is like a loop that's going to have to happen for everything to resolve, versus Arc, where you think that they're making progress towards breaking the loop. This kind of seems like it's like a more folded over time crimes thing, where it's like it has to happen. It's going to keep happening, I guess.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Because she's never going to make another different decision than the one she's already made.
Yeah, because even though she like lived through the loop, she's kind of like is disoriented and kind of has to have like deja vu everything. So it's kind of like, you know, the moment the point at which you see her in the beginning of the movie, it's consistent with where we see her at the end of the movie. She's still kind of
Yeah.
loopy and stuff like that, so she'll still end up doing the same thing.
But it's cool though because in the beginning of the movie she's like, I know these hallways, I remember. She doesn't like totally remember why, but she does remember enough that she feels the boat is familiar. And it's cool once you understand why, because she was there. That
Right.
version of her was there
Yeah.
before. And so I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah, she also had the dream of her on the beach too, or a nightmare. Sorry, she like wakes up on the yacht and it's like, oh, I had a
Yeah.
nightmare, and like,
Which is
oh,
a memory.
yeah.
So that was cool.
I know. Yeah, I liked a lot of the things that they had like sprinkled throughout, like the seagulls. That was like a running
Oh,
thing.
yes.
They're following them around and kind of, you
Yeah.
know, and then
Yeah,
obviously it
little-
hit her car. I like the
Right.
reveal.
All the seagulls.
Yeah,
Of
all the
them
seagulls.
all.
Just that last set,
Because-
like, you are still in the loop.
Yeah.
Because
it's
you
still happening.
finally, because you thought, okay, she killed her like past self that was abusive and whatever, and they're finally getting away and they're going somewhere else and whatever. But
Nope.
then she
Seagulls.
sees all those seagulls, and like as soon as I saw her like pause, I was like, no,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, that was.
And then she throws it, and it's just a pile of them. It's not as many as there are duplicate Sallys.
Maybe it's half.
And I think
because-
that's on purpose.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably half because the Sallys are doubled because the crew is doubled.
Mhm.
Only like every other Jess gets off the boat. So
Yeah, so that was cool. And, you know, we see, because we don't know that Jess got to the harbor in a taxi instead of in her red car. So in the
Right.
beginning of the movie, we see the red car driving off and, you know, and going past that Sunshine State sign and whatever. And then
She's walking.
and then it goes to the people on the boat and, you know, but in reality, that happened. They killed a seagull, got in a car crash, death came, and then she came in the taxi.
Yeah.
And that is really cool once you kind of understand that and like light bulb moment. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, the beginning of the movie, it's like telling you we're already in this loop and we're
Yeah.
gonna be in this loop forever.
Yeah, it was
So-
really cool. It was really well done, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was as far as like movie endings go, it was pretty, like, for having a pretty bleak and dark ending, it was pretty like satisfying, I guess. It was this really satisfying dark ending.
Yeah, I like that I understood what I needed to. I got the information I needed. We could, you know, make assumptions of things logically with how the story played out instead of, I'll bring it up again, something like Primer, where it purposefully confuses you so it can be a jackass.
Yeah.
So clothes and sets, it's a very horror movie, very generic cotton clothing of nondescript colors and
Yeah.
styles.
What'd you call it in Lost? Pretty dirty, right? Where there's like
Yeah.
Jess is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
she's
pretty
like
dirty.
she's like pretty
Yeah,
while she's
eventually,
really dirty.
literally couldn't roll around in mud, and yet it still like comes off like designer clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like the other people, like they're wearing yacht clothes, or that it's like white suit, like pantsuits almost, like with shoulders wrapped around sweaters around their shoulders. You know, kind of very very rich whitey kind of stuff.
I think it's really funny thinking about the last movie we did, which was Clock Stoppers. Those consequences, there basically weren't any. And this one, it's like the worst consequences possible. Just the drastic difference of those. Would you guys want to experience this time travel?
Hell no.
It's like not even worth asking. Obviously not.
Yeah, I mean, geez, not even poor.
There's nothing
Jess.
even good
Yeah.
about it at all. There's no positive.
There's no
benefits.
upside to it.
You're not traveling through time. You're not seeing anything different. You
It's a
literally
punishment.
are. It's a punishment. You're killing people. You're seeing dead bodies. You're killing your son, essentially.
Yeah,
Right.
Killing yourself. It's like
You're just-
yeesh,
you're
there's
stuck in-
nothing good about it.
you're stuck in this eternal loop just
guess-
because. I mean,
Yeah.
she was a bad mom and she
was
abused
a
her
bad
son,
mom.
and so
The
this is
only,
her punishment.
yeah, I guess the only good thing is that, and you kind of said this after we watched it, is like she does get to see her son again
Yeah,
briefly after she gets off the boat and
Right.
back. But that's really the only positive thing that happens to her, and even that's not that positive because
Yeah,
he
it's like
dies.
it's a hollow victory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, pass for all of us on this one. Any other notes you guys had about the film?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on all like the cool little touches, like the shot through the mirror, all the different mirror stuff. There's another foreshadowing in the beginning where she like gets the toy boats capsized in the little kiddie pool. Obviously, it was like a yacht; it was capsized. Some more stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool little touches that lets you kind of think that it's been going on since like the doorbell ringing. It's like as soon as it starts, you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on 100%.
Yeah.
Up until the end, we're like, okay, now I've seen everything, and I
Right.
get it.
Yeah, there's one quote that she says that's bad dreams make you see things, which was kind of, it's the writer-director trying to kind of be like, is this actually, you know, in her head? But
Right.
there wasn't enough evidence of that.
You
know,
never,
as a-
I never
as a
believed that it was
mystery.
in her head.
No, and I think a little bit of them wanted you to guess that, but they didn't have enough to kind of play
Right.
off of that, which they could have, and it would have been interesting. But I'm personally glad they didn't do a lot of that because it would have been, I think, a little bit too much to try and comprehend all at the same time.
Right.
Because it is only an hour and a half movie, and it's already complicated enough. So yeah,
Yeah, I just remember that it all started when their sails lost wind, and Aeolus is the god of wind.
yeah,
And then the son of Aeolus is Sisyphus, which I guess she could be the daughter of the ship, Aeolus. She's created on this ship, so she could be like the Sisyphus character, and Aeolus stopped the wind and brought her on the ship, and she was like, quote-unquote, reborn, I guess, on there as the daughter of Aeolus to further expand the allegory.
sure, yeah,
I like that. No, I like that. I mean, this movie definitely is deeper than your run-of-the-mill B movie. Like it's definitely something that like the director and like the production design people and the art direction people were and cinematographer were very conscious about what they were saying visually and storytelling wise. Like, this was not like a thrown together film.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Obviously, kind of a small budget, but there was a clear moment where they were no longer on the seas and they were in a soundstage in a big old in a tank.
And I said it was like all of a sudden they're on the set of the Truman Show.
Yeah, with like the fake sky and like the obviously like in a tank of water.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any other notes?
I know that we were saying before we saw this, we saw on the IMDb that apparently there's a Shining reference because one of the rooms is 237, which is the famous red room.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, which it's pretty apt comparison because she goes crazy pretty much and kills people.
Yeah,
that's true. Final reviews. I want to start.
Sure.
So, I really enjoyed this movie, and even after kind of we dissected it right now, I still really liked it, and I would recommend, obviously, if you've listened this far, we've spoiled everything, but I would, recommend it to someone who hasn't listened. Like, people are like, oh, what are some time travel movies you've done? People ask, I'm sure, ask you that too. People ask us that all the time. This would be, usually the first movie I always recommend is Time Crimes because it's so well done. This movie is another one that if you like this kind of genre, this thriller, mystery, kind of time loop stuff, it is fun to watch, so I would recommend it to people. So I like time loops, I like duplication. Thought even though, there were a few things that we didn't know, like how it first happened, I would give this movie like an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I like it a lot too. I mean, I kind of just reiterate what you said about being really surprised and how it all came together. It's well done. I thought Melissa George was good too. Like she played well the kind of like oblivious, not oblivious. Sorry, she's like confused and like not sure what's going on, and then having to go crazy and deal with all this stuff. That was pretty good.
But I like, once you know the ending, she's confused because she's reliving it again.
Yeah,
and is trying to, eventually she'll realize that, but as it's happening, she doesn't really totally know why.
Yeah, but I also think she is mentally damaged too because she does hear voices in her head. Like,
and she's been doing this dozens of times at this point. Just because we've been following her, that wasn't the first time we see them get on the boat. That's not the first time that Jess has gotten on that boat.
It's been dozens of times.
So she's like mentally deteriorating.
Yeah, but so I like the allegory. I like the just nonstop. Like the other movie, there's things, you're not bored. There's always something going on.
Mm-hmm. When you think you figured it out, she's like reliving another loop, and it's different than the previous loop, which keeps it going.
Yeah, exactly. It isn't just one loop. There's like they're layered loops. Mm-hmm. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Actually, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I thought it was like well done. It's really well thought out. It's well crafted. It stays tight. Like the story is tight. Like there's not a lot of extra stuff going on. I would say the only thing I kind of have to give knockoff points for with this movie is the other characters, other than Heather, are really not necessarily unlikable. I won't go that far, but you just don't really care. They're kind of fodder for the story. And I think one or two more characters that you really cared about what happened to them would have made it a lot more like gut wrenching than just like kill them
when they die.
Yeah, they could have developed Greg or George or whatever his name was, the guy who liked her.
Greg.
They could have developed him a little bit more.
Yeah,
because he was likable enough, and then by the time I actually was like trying to get to know him, he was dead.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, but he also kind of wasn't the nicest guy because he was like, in your world, she's like, what do you mean my world? Like you can tell he kind of thinks she's crazy after that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily blame him.
Yeah, she is crazy.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah,
I think the movie could have used an antagonist outside of herself. I think if one of the crew people was a little bit more like, I mean, I know you have Liam Hemsworth thing, but that's after she like severely wounds him.
I think Sally should have been more.
Yeah,
because she's a little bit, but. Yeah, not enough. It would
have added a little more tension and a little more conflict, and it would have really made her have to think a little bit more on her toes. There's just a few things for that. So, but I really enjoyed it. Vincent George does a good job, so I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
Cool. Time travel rating. So, as I kind of mentioned before, there is the big plot hole of what happened the very first time. Kind of isn't explained, and that is kind of it's not a glaring problem. You can still enjoy the movie, but it's a problem enough that I have to dock some points. But I do like the time loop. I think it is well crafted. Yeah, I like that, we're still trying to figure out where did it come from, and like, you kind of guess the whole movie, why is she the one who's experiencing this, and then we find out at the end it's because of the type of mother she is and the type of person to her son. But yeah, I want to give it 7 out of 10, I think, for the time travel.
Yeah, I'm right around there too. I like what they do several times in the movie, like kind of hinting towards things and dropping hints in there, and the reveal when she first approaches herself with the gun and like changes things, because like, oh wait, that's not how we saw it the first time. And then you realize, oh, because that's like another version of herself getting there, and then the next time that she comes across that moment, it is how it was the first time. I thought that was a cool twist. I didn't expect it to be multiple loops layered onto each other. And yeah, there are problems, of course, with like eternity, like an infinite loop. Yeah, like when did it start? What happens if there's too many Sallys up there? How many guns are there on the ship? I guess because they're always on the rack, so they have to somehow get back on the rack. I don't know, but yeah, ammo, all that stuff in terms of like logistically speaking, that kind of is where you get some problems. But yeah, I agree. I'll put it at 7.5 for a time travel rating.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm right with you guys with the time travel. I think because of the fantasy element, it's just a little bit easier to forgive a lot of that. But within the rules of the story, it works very well. There's not a lot of major plot holes. Certainly not ones I thought of while I was watching it, which for me is good enough. And yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Cool. Okay, so Rotten Tomatoes, 82%. There's no critics' consensus, but average rating was 6.5 out of 10. So that's not too bad for critics for a B movie. The poster kind of gives it away now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's her reflection.
It's her reflection as obviously the evil person.
Yeah, and even on the one on IMDb, it's a different shot, but same idea. It's a reflection of her with the bag on her head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no way surprised that it's duplication.
But it is a B movie, so, they're not super trying to, they want it to be a surprise, but they also know not hundreds of people are going to see this.
They gotta get people in. I mean, honestly, if I saw this in a video store, this poster, I would think, oh, this is a horror slasher flick where, the main character is actually the slasher.
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely looks, and I guess maybe it's supposed to look like a horror movie, and then it kind of wants to surprise you by making it more about the time travel and the time loop, and it's more of a human story. So, yeah, 65% of audiences liked it, so that's not too bad. Next episode is back to my choice. We're going to be doing Time Cop from 1994. I've actually never seen this, but we have a good friend who really likes this movie and has been kind of nagging us for a while to do it, so I figured it's time.
Yeah, some Jean-Claude Van Damme.
The story synopsis says, Max Walker, an officer for a security agency that regulates time travel, must fend for his life against a shady politician who's intent on changing the past to control the future.
I really can't believe I've never seen this movie.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah.
I believe that you haven't seen it. Most of our movies you've never seen.
Yeah, I know, but I've seen a lot of 90s action movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, there you go. So 94, looks like it's for rent on Amazon, but I'm sure you could probably find it for cheap somewhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular movie, so it should be available.
Cool. So, social media, or did you want to plug anything?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is not time travel related, but I have a play that's playing at Hollywood Fringe Festival every weekend in June 3rd, 9th, 11th, 17th, and 24th at the Complex in Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood, California. If you are listening to the show and you want to discount off the tickets, you can use the code ELIXIR to get $5 off your ticket, and you can go to hff.org/4373. Tickets.
Yeah, it's called Mary's Medicine.
Mary's Medicine. That's it. Thank you. I almost forgot to say that. Mary's Medicine. That's the name of the play.
Yes.
Yes.
Writing and directing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Writing and directing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jen and I will be there. One of the shows. So,
Well, we won't tell you which.
Yeah,
but if
exactly.
you find us, we
Keep
will
guessing.
sign your merch.
Yeah.
That would be weird if that ever happens to us.
It's
Maybe
gonna
one day.
happen one day.
One day.
One day people are gonna be like, yay, yay!
I would gladly sign anything if it's a time travel trio thing.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll do social media. So we are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and Instagram, and we are the Time Travel Trio podcast on Facebook, so please follow us on all those if you wish. We are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, so please rate, subscribe, do all that good stuff, especially if you've been listening. We'd really appreciate maybe some more reviews and ratings. That would be super awesome. We're trying to, spread the love to people who want to listen, so that'd be great. Personal, I am at Jen Marlis on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm at Foreman in Space on those things.
And I'm at Robinson is Hyde.
And with that,
We are out of
Time.